All right, I want to get you the latest on this now. Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas has been under fire for reportedly accepting lavish vacations and gifts from billionaire GOP donor Harlan Crow.
And according to a new ProPublica report, those luxury trips and gifts are not the only things that Crow paid for on Thomas's behalf.
That's right. It says he also covered the tuition bill of Thomas's nephew, Mark Martin, who lived with Thomas from ages 6 through 19. Harlan Crow's office has denied Thomas asked him to pay for his grandnephew's tuition.
We want to bring in now Justin Elliott. He is one of the ProPublica reporters who worked on this article. Glad to have you with us, Justin. Tell us just more about these reported tuition payments from Crow.
Yeah, so what we've now confirmed is that this billionaire political donor was actually paying, we believe, around $100,000 in tuition payments for this child that Justice Thomas took in at the age of 6, and as he said, raised like a son. It was technically his grandnephew named Mark Martin. Thomas, when the boy was in high school, sent him to boarding school, and Crow paid for at least 2 years of tuition. So we're talking about something really far beyond the previous reporting about lavish trips that Crow took Justice Thomas on. This is just paying for, perhaps around $100,000 of what most people would consider kind of ordinary expenses that Justice Thomas would have had to pay out of his own pocket.
Every few weeks, we seem to hear about a new layer of influence from this donor, this friend. Are these the only apparent tuition-related payments that we know about as far as what you've uncovered and investigated?
It's a great question, and we just don't know at this point whether we have the full picture. And we're still very much reporting. And if anyone has information, they should get in touch. But even what we know at this point is this is a extraordinary friendship. I mean, certainly not like any friendships I have, where Harlan Crow has paid $100,000 perhaps of tuition for Justice Thomas, has taken him on lavish cruises around the world, has allowed him to use his private jet. The other story we reported is that Crow actually bought some real estate from Justice Thomas, and Crow currently actually owns the house where Justice Thomas's mother lives, and Crow does not charge her rent. So we're just seeing a lot of what ethics experts are telling us are incredibly unusual, if not unprecedented, financial ties between this billionaire political donor and a sitting Supreme Court justice.
Now, was Justice Thomas ever required to report or disclose any of these? As we've talked about before, many Democrats in the Senate are outraged, and now they're calling for more oversight of Supreme Court justices. What reaction have you gotten from your reporting?
Yeah, so that's the other big aspect of this, which is that Justice Thomas has not disclosed any of these gifts, including the tuition payments. And, we've talked to many ethics law experts at this point who say that there's a law that requires Supreme Court justices, as well as many other public officials, to report gifts. And the reason for that is to allow members of the public to understand potential conflicts of interest, questions of influence. And what we're told is that Justice Thomas seems to be just violating that law repeatedly. With this recent case on the tuition payments, a friend of Justice Thomas, a close friend, has released a statement contesting that Justice Thomas had to disclose these gifts of the tuition payments.
I want to put that up there for our viewers out of fairness. Control room, do we have that statement? Yeah, it says, Harlan Crow's tuition payments made directly to the schools on behalf of Justice Thomas's great-nephew did not constitute a reportable gift. That, of course, is what we have heard from Thomas's camp throughout this reporting, that he was not required to disclose those types of gifts. In this case, the tuition payments made directly to Randolph Macron and the Georgia school on behalf of Justice Thomas's great-nephew, because the definition of a dependent child under the Ethics in Government Act does not include a great-nephew. I want to let you continue, but as you brought that up, Justin, I wanted to allow the representative for Justice Thomas to say his piece on that.
Absolutely. And, the rules get a little bit technical, but in this case, essentially, if this was a gift to Justice Thomas, the justice would have to disclose it. If it was a gift to his grandnephew who he was raising, then he wouldn't have to disclose it. Now, our story contains a piece of relevant information here, which is that we actually talked to Thomas's relative, who's now an adult, who told us that he didn't even know Harlan Crow was paying his tuition. So the idea that this was a gift to this child who literally didn't even know about it until we called him, 15 years later, doesn't really make sense. And the ethics lawyers we spoke to said, look, this is clearly, and I'm sure a lot of viewers have the experience of having to pay tuition bills, whether it's for high school or college for their kids. If somebody takes care of that for you, I think most people would consider that a gift to them.
And even with that statement, it seems to suggest Thomas is following the letter of the law, but not the spirit, right? The court is facing a crisis of legitimacy among the American people. Based on all of this, one other thing, too, is that Crow is denying that Thomas ever asked him to pay the tuition. Does that matter in your view? Or why does that matter?
I think it sort of all matters. I mean, I think what we'd like is a full account of how this happened. I mean, I think you're right. The disclosure issue is incredibly important, but in some ways it's secondary just to the fact that you have a Supreme Court justice accepting very, very large sums of money from a billionaire political donor who, we haven't mentioned, has been quite active funding groups that do advocacy related to the law and the Supreme Court. So this is somebody that has a lot of, at the very least, ideological interests related to the Supreme Court. We spoke to a number of federal judges, current and retired federal judges, who said they're so careful about this sort of thing, they wouldn't even let a lawyer buy them lunch. So I think the acceptance of, in this case, $100,000 roughly, we believe, in tuition payments is just way, way outside the norm, separate and apart from this kind of technical issue of disclosure.
All right. Investigative reporter for ProPublica, Justin Elliott, thank you for joining us.
Thanks, Justin.
Thanks so much.